Folks, United States Senate passed the bill, which includes aid to Ukraine. In that particular bill is a potential ban on the TikTok app unless they are sold. This has been a huge concern for a number of members of Congress because they say that the Chinese government actually controls TikTok, and they don't like the fact that they would have access to the data of millions of people all across the globe. Joining us right now is Isaac Hayes III. He is the founder of Fanbase. Glad to have you on the show, Isaac. Before I get to that, just give us an update on the raise that Fanbase has embarked on.
Yeah, we're almost at $1 million. We're at $928,000 raised for our equity crowdfund, Reg A equity crowdfund on StartEngine. It's amazing. This is a big round for us. We're raising $17 million and allowing the general public, anyone that's watching this program right now, anybody that hears this video, sees this video, to invest in Fanbase and actually have equity in a social media startup. And I think with what's going on TikTok right now and the uncertainty and instability of what's going on with social networks, I know that there will be other networks that emerge. So I encourage everybody to go to startengine.com/fanbase. It's on my shirt. And go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That's a small amount compared to what it normally takes to invest in seed stage companies with these high minimums. But $399 is all it takes for you to get 60 shares, $665 a share, and become an owner and have equity in Fanbase. We had that equity conversation even last week about it's time that we own these platforms. And so I'm glad we're at this level with Fanbase.
Well, speaking of that, there are a lot of people, a lot of black folks who use TikTok, a lot of creators, and now folks are like, what the heck is going to happen after this decision by the House and the Senate? This bill is now on its way to be signed by President Biden, and is calling for TikTok that for it to be sold because they allege that the Chinese government has an equity stake in this app. Your thoughts on this action?
I'm torn. Actually, the president signed the bill today, this afternoon. And so it gives TikTok about 270 days to divest from ByteDance, its owner, and be sold to an American corporation or will be banned. If the president sees that there's a deal on the table, he may extend that that deadline about 90 days. And so it's about a year or a little longer that TikTok has left to sell this company. I'm torn about this situation because, number one, first and foremost, the people that are affected the most are the creators, right? And there are millions of people that monetize and make money on TikTok. And it's really scary for those people to have their livelihood threatened based on this action. But at the same time, I understand that they may not want to accept the fact that in all fairness, there are no American companies that operate inside of China. So there is no Instagram, there is no Facebook, there is no Twitter, there is no Snapchat allowed to operate. So as a form of reciprocity, why should a Chinese-owned company be allowed to operate in America? So I don't think TikTok is going to go anywhere per se, but I think it will be divested and sold to an American corporation that will continue to run it with the concerns that they have about Chinese having access to users' data, Americans' data.
This is the, give me one second. I want to pull it. Oh, no, don't go to that. I'm going to go to something else, y'all. I want to pull up, I got two different things. I'm on a computer here. And so let me pull this story up because this is what Congress is saying by this particular action here. What they're saying is that this is all about ensuring that the Chinese do not continue their involvement with espionage. What a lot of people don't understand is that the United States is in a constant battle with the Chinese, with Iran, with North Korea, with Russia, and other folks as well when it comes to espionage. And it's all about information. This is a quote here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull it up. This is Senator Maria Cantwell. She chairs the Senate Commerce Committee. She said, Congress is acting to prevent, she says, Congress is not acting to punish ByteDance, TikTok, or any other individual company. Congress is acting to prevent foreign adversaries from conducting espionage, surveillance, maligned operations, harming vulnerable Americans or servicemen and women and our U.S. government personnel. What people, users are one thing. But what a lot of users aren't just aware, Isaac, is just how significant espionage is, how this tech battle, the stealing of secrets, the stealing of data is a part of this. And when you sign up these apps, you're turning over a significant amount of personal data, emails, phone numbers. I've heard, members of Congress talk about the fear of the Chinese eavesdropping on conversations, accessing people's emails. And look, you got a number of governments tell people they can't even download that app on their devices because out of those fears.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think people forget is before this ban came into place, it was actually brought to the attention of ByteDance that they should not allow the Chinese government to actually have ownership. The problem here is that the actual Chinese government owns part of ByteDance, which is TikTok's parent company. So the first choice was to say that if the Chinese government divests from ownership in ByteDance, then there wouldn't be a ban because the Chinese government doesn't own ByteDance. The Chinese government refused. They still said with the Chinese government owning part of ByteDance that TikTok was still a safe place. But you understand that the communist country like China, they can do whatever they want to. They can have access to whatever they want to. So China refused to divest itself from ByteDance. So therefore, America decided that it made the decision to ban TikTok. So this isn't just something that come out of the blue. This is something that first and foremost said, hey, look, China, if you're going to own part of this tech company, we're not going to allow you to operate in the United States of America. So you can either leave, sell your equity stake in ByteDance, or you can see this ban. And I think this is going to be pretty scary because I'm not sure that ByteDance will sell TikTok. I don't know. I mean, they have a year to do it, but I don't know if they will sell, because I think one of the things that people pride themselves, or one of the things that ByteDance and TikTok pride themselves on, is this amazing algorithm that they have. This algorithm that keeps users locked into the app for hours and hours and hours. And so when you sell that company, you're going to be selling that. You're going to be selling that precious algorithm. And so whoever winds up purchasing TikTok, if it does happen, is going to get a massive tool of influence and power and marketing. And I think that's one of the things that is going to make this situation a little different, a little complex, and see if ByteDance will hold firm and they'll try to fight this in court.
Robert, for a lot of these content creators who don't follow any of this stuff, they don't even understand that this is not new. Robert, when we talk about banning the Chinese, right here, this is a political story from earlier this month. U.S. states are cutting off Chinese citizens and companies from land ownership. So this is not, something that's new in the United States. There are laws in this country to prevent foreign ownership of various United States assets, Robert.
I want people to understand that we've been in the middle of a virtual war with China for over 2 decades at this point in time. If you take a look at the Chinese J-20 stealth fighter, just take a little picture of it and look at an F-22 or F-35 from the front. It's the same damn plane, because we had a massive data leak where the Chinese were able to steal information on our stealth fighters that came from a military base. Somebody's in prison over there right now. We have digital attacks against our power grid, against critical infrastructure that are headquartered in China. Remember, Jack Ma, the Chinese billionaire, just disappeared for a few years there, and then came back, and he seemed to be a completely different human being. So I know people want to do their dances on TikTok, etc., and their viral content on all those sorts of things. But if you were to introduce a Trojan horse that you wanted everybody to bring into their homes, put on their personal networks, put on their work networks, where you will be able to hack and download data, forget the stuff on your phone. They want you taking your phone into the Pentagon. They want you taking your phone into Google. They want you take your phone into Delta. Then put it on the Wi-Fi there so they can have a direct access to every document that comes through there and every bit of the terabyte of information, so that they can decrypt it. And the world's fastest supercomputer is located in China, even faster than the quantum computers here in the United States of America that can perform billions of searches and queries by the second. The strongest AI in the world is located in China. So when we're talking about TikTok, what we're really doing is the same thing the Chinese are doing to America, which is that if we allowed American companies into China, America will be spying on China also. The only way to keep our critical national security infrastructure safe and protected is to not allow these things onto our networks. We've seen what has happened before. We'll see what will happen again. And this is a prudent step by the Biden administration. And I think more than likely this will end up being sold within the next year.
Here's one of the things that, Rebecca, that people also don't realize. Foreigners cannot own more than 25% of a U.S. airline. And not only that, they cannot have operational control of that particular airline. And so, again, this is one of those things that a lot of people, I've seen a lot of these videos on social media, people mad, upset with this decision, not realizing that there are already existing laws in place that limit foreign ownership of what are deemed to be national security interest industries in the United States.
You know, I think it's also very important to keep letting people know and informing them the national security reasons in this. And the reason why I say this is that I work with a lot of Gen Zs and college campuses, and I even think about some of my friends who have teenagers now who are up in arms and they're anti-Biden because of this particular issue. You know, we make jokes all the time about the Meta companies saying that, you know, Instagram is listening to you anyway, because when you have a conversation with your friend, the next thing you know, you'll see a targeted sponsored ad targeted towards you that's about the very thing that you were just talking out loud with your friends. Whether or not that is true or not, with whether or not companies like Meta is actively listening to people, even when the app isn't open, I don't know about that. But one thing that I do know is that even when you have an American company, even if that American company is skirting the line when it comes to privacy, one thing that I know is because they are an American company, the federal government and even some state governments can regulate those actions, fine those particular companies. But the issue here is when you have a foreign actor that has actively spied on Americans, as long as that foreign actor is allowed to perform on American soil, i.e. Americans have access to TikTok, there really isn't a lot of regulation that the U.S. government or even state governments can do to prevent their intrusion into privacy. Outside of having rigid sanctions against China, the U.S. really wouldn't have a lot in its tool belt. So while I do have empathy for some of the creators who are making their living off of a platform like TikTok, there's also other platforms such as Fanbase, but there's also other platforms like YouTube where folks are able to take their content, monetize their content. But this also might push creators back into actually creating their own platforms or going to a fan base where they will have equity stake in Fanbase, or even be able to immediately monetize their content on Fanbase in a way that is transparent. Because one thing we do know is that TikTok, comparatively, doesn't pay well. You're not most of your folks doing their dances on TikTok aren't even making $100 off of any of those dances. So there are other places for people to go. But I do think it's important to be able to explain what the distinction is and why specifically this particular company, there's a bigger problem with this privacy intrusions.
Tyler, folks may not even realize, and again, this is just one of those things that, I mean, obviously I knew because this is our industry that we're in, but here's a perfect example right here. It wasn't until 2017 that foreigners were allowed to own TV stations in the United States. That law existed up until 7 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the context and understanding is important. And I think today when we saw the announcement, I saw all up and down my feed of folks who are upset about this. And I think I definitely agree with the folks who have, concerns about their living and, monetizing and, providing for their families. But at the same time, I think the administration has to make clarity of what this actually means, especially during a crucial election year. And as mentioned, even before, American companies such as Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat aren't allowed in China, but yet they are allowed here. And so there some form of oversight was bound to happen regardless of which political party. And I think it's critical. And I think just to let folks know, this law will not directly immediate stop your disruption on your TikTok. It still has to go through the buying process. It may have to go through some legal battles. But for the clarity of it, as you mentioned before, the Chinese government, Communist Party, has stake in TikTok. And so I think it is really about the bottom line of protecting national security, protecting the data of American citizens, and even going deeper into it, the Chinese government has content recommendations, algorithms that control what we see on our feeds. And so, as I mentioned before, oversight at some point was bound to happen. But I do think there has to be a level of education because there's a lot of misinformation going around saying, they just want to keep us from being able to access information. But the bottom line is protecting our national security is most important. And it's critical that folks and this White House also informs folks in such a critical year of what is happening, why it's happening, and as it relates to especially younger generations who go to this for most of their news or most of their media. And so it's important that that information is relayed and an understanding is made about what is happening with this ban.
And you know what? And Isaac, here's the thing that, let's just cut to the chase. A lot of Americans don't know a damn thing what's happening in China. You said it earlier. The Chinese control everything. They are a communist country. So folk here who want to act like, oh, no, it's all wide open and freedom of expression and freedom of speech and we should have access. That ain't how it works in China. China believes in capitalism outside of China, but inside of China, they like, we run this. You do not have the same type of laws in China that you have in the United States.
No, not at all. And I think, that's one of the decisions, like I said, was made because China is China. It's a communist country. And I think there is a danger. And to follow that point, your devices can listen to you. The permissions that you give your phone definitely give it access so that these companies that run ads, we don't run ads on Fanbase, but these companies that do run ads, they do listen. They do track your movement. They know when you drive by, a certain restaurant or a gas station to send you an ad. They know how high you are, how fast you're moving. They're collecting all this data on you. And so there is a danger in that, knowing how Americans move, massive amounts of people move. So much information is traveling through your phone. So the potential for a foreign entity to have access to all of that type of information, especially through a platform like TikTok, which even a lot of young people use, is very, very dangerous and very important. I think, that's the seriousness of this matter. We prepared for this over at Fanbase. Actually, we've been preparing for this. We have a migration tool that has been pretty successful, something that we patented where it allows you to actually copy all of your content that exists on TikTok and migrate it over to Fanbase for free up to 1,000 posts because we didn't know what was going to happen with TikTok. But I wanted to make sure that creators still had an opportunity to have and own their content, put it somewhere safe and secure, and they can actually still monetize that content. And so our content migration new update, I think, releases tomorrow. And so people will be able to actually, move their content from Instagram or TikTok directly over to Fanbase and continue to build over there as we continue to, raise this capital and scale the company.
All right, Isaac Hayes III, I appreciate it, folks. If y'all want to get more information on the capital raise of Fanbase, go to startengine.com/Fanbase, startengine.com/Fanbase. Isaac, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/Fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.